Hello my friends, Touchnot here, and this is the third part. I think it'll be the last of McGilvray Ferry. In the 1800s, about the 1850s to 1890s, for 40 years they ran the McGilvray Ferry across the Black River, and here's a little bit more of it. So look for parts 1 and 2. This is number 3. Improvements came bit by bit. In 1859, the county voted to pay $85 to build a bridge between Galesville and McGilvray's Ferry, and in 1861 voted to put in a corduroy road and a plank bridge over the swampy ground for farmers attempting to negotiate the steep slope down to the ferry landing. For his part, McGilvray voluntarily graded the approaches to his ferry with good hard clay and presented the county with a bill for $65.45 for planking the bridge across the slough behind his ferry. The county paid the then sizable sum, since the ferry was an asset to the whole county, promoting settlement and commerce of the area. Other simple bridges followed, easing movement across the bottoms. McGilvray's Ferry had become an institution. In the 1860s, the ferry took on a new role. Alex's son, Rankin, later recalled, "When the Civil War broke out, we began to carry soldiers across the ferry. Hardly a day went by until the close of the war that we did not carry some of the boys. And along at first they were all going one way, bound for La Crosse, and from there to Madison or Milwaukee, and then to the front. But after the first Battle of Bull Run, the wounded soldiers started to return, and then we were carrying soldiers both ways until the war ended. You could always tell the wounded ones, for they were bandaged and crippled. A great many of them had their arms in slings. Others were walking with crutches, while some had bandaged heads. I recollect one fellow who came back nearly shot to pieces. He was most dilapidated-looking soldier I ever saw. He was lame, and his right arm was in a sling, and he had been hit in the face and lost one eye, and couldn't see very well out of the other one." Excuse me. "He was sour and cranky and rather discouraged, and I didn't blame him. Father kept him all night at the inn, and had one of the boys drive him into Trempealeau the next day. Father never charged the soldiers anything for carrying them across the ferry or for boarding or lodging. Although he could not go to war, he did this patriotic service for his adopted country. My chances of going to war were spoiled on account of the ferry. I was on fire to go all right, but instead of going to the front and dying for my country, I had to stay at home and bail water out of the ferry boat and help run it." The ferry was not without its faults. Traffic frequently backed up, and seasonal shutdowns when the river froze up were a major inconvenience. Talk of replacing it with a bridge surfaced repeatedly, but Alex McGilvray opposed the idea, fearing the loss of business that would follow. His son Gilbert took over operation of the ferry after Alex's death in 1878 and proved more forward-looking. Indeed, he became an advocate of replacing the ferry with a bridge. In 1892, Galesville Independent reported, "G.O. McGilvray was in La Crosse last week to confer with the County Bridge Commission." "That's right, Gib. Hurry them if you can. There has been too much talk about the bridge, and we people would like to see some work going on to convince us that they mean business." This continued a little bit here, as you can well surmise. Success was not easy to come by, but before the year was out, construction of a steel bridge across the river was underway just a few yards from the site at McGilvray's Ferry. The winter of 1891 and 92, of course, I realized the time was ripe for a bridge to be built. The fact that the McGilvray Ferry was tied up by log jams from 3 to 7 months each year, while the Gales Ferry only a few days a year, the Council Bay Ferry only once, the 36-mile jam was in, made the proper McGilvray Ferry the proper place for the bridge. I'm sorry, I ruined that a little bit. They got an appropriation of $2,000, providing Tremp Company would give $1,000, and I could raise a balance of $8,000 from any other source. I went to the Black River Log Driving Association and got $1,000 and $1,000 from the Black River Improvement Company. You see, the bridge was would allow the logs to continue down and not tangle up in the business of the ferry. There's no ferry and there's just a bridge. The logs can go beneath it, and this was what it was. And so they were even willing to help pay for the bridge, the logging companies now, in order to speed up their business, everyone's business, really. This was a big thing. It's quite a story, folks. I'm going to end this now, I think. There's lots more to this. There's another 3 or 4 pages or more of different sections of this. Several bridges were built, and restoration of bridges continued, and to this day there's some bridges and trails there, I think, that you can walk. The McGilvray Ferry Road. I'm sure a lot of people might know this story. I didn't, and I thought I'd bring it to you on the Touch Not channel for McGilvray month in July of 2024, which is when I'm talking to you. So thanks for staying with the Touch Not.